What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 10X Recruiting brought to you by Metaview. Actually, I lied. This is not going to be a 10X Recruiting episode. Instead, today, we are going to bring you one of our latest HR Heretics episodes that we did with Siadhal Magos, who's the CEO of Metaview. Once a month, Siadhal comes on the show and we call it the AI Corner. And so today we are going to cut over to that episode because everybody needs to know what's going on with AI, and Siadhal is the best in the world to bring it to you. So here's everything you need to know with this week's episode of 10X Recruiting and HR Heretics with our AI Corner with Siadhal Magos. Hope you enjoy. This is 10X Recruiting, a podcast from Metaview. Let's get after it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of HR Heretics. Today, we are doing our AI Corner with the CEO of Metaview, Siadhal Magos. As Kelli said, Siadhal's flow is looking amazing today. Siadhal, it's good to see you, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, hair tips available in the comments. So you can get them out.
It is. I asked him if he woke up like that. Looks incredible. And for those of you who don't know, flow means hair. I did not know that. So here we go.
Yeah, it's me speaking in millennial. I think it's still millennial term there. So Siadhal, we're going to talk today about AI sourcing. And so you and I had a conversation, I think it was probably like February, March timeframe. And we were talking about the Metaview roadmap, and we were having a very, polite debate. And I remember, if I recall correctly, being like, I think we should do AI sourcing because everybody wants it. And there really hasn't been a good solution up to this point. So since then, you guys built this thing in like 6 months, which huge hat tip to your founder. I think you might be the better founder of the two, just me speaking. But anyways, you guys get this thing out. And now it feels like it was supposed to be in beta, but the world is ripping it from your hands. So give us the rundown of why you guys decided to prioritize this, where you're at in the development cycle, what you're learning from customers, and then ideally we'd love to see a demo so we can get in there and figure out what's going on.
So, I mean, many folks have mentioned to us that AI sourcing might be an truly AI native sourcing solution might be something that's worth experiencing, which I guess Nolan, don't give yourself too much credit on that front. It's been top of many people's minds. And B is obviously a really big signal to someone like me because it tells me people aren't satisfied with what is out there, which is obviously, exactly why we exist, right? When I think about the question that we ask ourselves every day, it's really how are humans and AI going to work together to build teams? And so we have this great note taker product. We have a bunch of data analytics tools on top of that, the hiring conversational data. But for us, it's always been about soup to nuts. How can we help the people who are obsessing over building their teams do it with that Iron Man suit on with AI at their fingertips? And sourcing has just always been sort of very high on the list. And then you have a couple of other sort of compounding factors. One is that people were actually using Metaview for sourcing in quite a core use case already. So if you think about some of our longer term customers, folks who've been with us for maybe 3 years by this point, they have thousands and thousands of conversations with thousands of different candidates. And when they're trying to fill really hard to fill roles, they would often go to Metaview and ask the AI, hey, has anyone else in the company spoke to someone who has XYZ? And so we were already seeing this emerging use case of people, wanting to leverage both, our world-class AI, but also their own data. And then the third thing was things beyond our control, which is really, we talked a little bit in the past about browser use and computer use on this pod. The fact that AI can now essentially use the same tools that humans can use. That is a really, really big shift because essentially anything that you're doing that is heavily fingers on keyboard work is work that you're going to start to do with AI. And I would put all these folks like Lovable and V0 and all of these sort of vibe coding tools in that bucket. This is work you're doing fingers on keyboard. It's not a human to human interaction. You're going to do that with AI. So this sort of vibe coding explosion that you've seen over the last year was also really telling for us because we're like, hey, listen, if people who are building products, building experiences, building websites have this really intuitive way to essentially demystify the product building process using AI, is that not also going to be true in recruiting? And if so, where's that going to be? And we think it's most likely sourcing because that's the most sort of fingers on keyboard, doing the sort of sometimes the dirty work of just finding profiles. So that was the big reason. Summarize, I guess, we knew customers needed it, and we thought the time was now for a technical reason that made it make sense.
Yep. So we could call this vibe recruiting. then maybe?
I think we should go vibe sourcing for now. For now, I think we're gonna draw the line at sourcing, and we'll see if we can get to the rest of recruiting over time.
Okay. So then you guys launched the beta thing I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And then all of a sudden now we're in GA, which you and I are supposed to be having this event next week to do the formal announcement. And then that got moved up.
Yeah.
So why? What's going on?
Yeah. So basically the first, now much as AI sourcing or sourcing with AI is going to be a thing, there's other companies that are doing somewhat interesting things as well. One of the sort of the massive advantages we have almost natively to our platform is we can do what's called promptless sourcing. So most of the time when you want to source for someone, you as the human, you need to turn up and have the activation energy, and you need to think, well, what am I going to tell the AI that I want so that it can go and do some sourcing for you? In Metaview's case, we have this really cool situation where we're often hearing those conversations upstream of that action. So an example would be, let's say I'm a recruiter and I meet with a hiring manager, and the hiring manager is telling me, I need someone to fill this role. They need to be X, Y, Z. Metaview's already in that conversation. And so for the last 3 months or so, we've been having our AI sourcing agent, which is in beta, proactively going to find candidates off the back of that conversation. And so we had this sort of ever-growing number of customers that were realizing if they have a meeting and they discuss the type of candidate they're looking for, Metaview is going to go and find them some people. And so it's a really magical experience. It's a big part of the product we're launching now, is this really cool promptless sourcing. But what that resulted in was some people basically sharing this publicly, hey, look at this magical thing that Metaview started to do. And at first we just thought that was, hey, we weren't super surprised by it, I guess. But then we realized, I guess that stuff really spread quite quickly, and we needed a more of a thoughtful posture on what are we doing here. I'm sorry, our posture was already thoughtful. What I mean is we needed to have very clear communication with the market about what this was. And so we just brought the launch of it forward.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. We'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. AI changes how work gets done. Recruiting is no exception. Metaview is the AI platform purpose-built for recruiting. If you're looking to level up your AI adoption and see real impact from intake to offer, it's a no-brainer. Metaview's suite of AI agents works for you at every stage of the hiring process. Their platform powers instant job post creation, AI-powered candidate Q&A, insights on pipeline performance, compensation, and so much more. I've seen firsthand how tough it can be to extract consistently high-quality data from candidate conversations. I've been in candidate debriefs where interviewers told us about their feelings instead of what actually happened in the interview. And I've seen VPs and CEOs block hires because they didn't learn anything from skeleton scorecards. Metaview changes all of that. For every candidate in every pipeline, bring radical efficiency and precision to your hiring process with perfect data from every conversation. Metaview covers all of your compliance needs, works with all of your existing tools, and takes less than 3 minutes to set up. Join talent leaders at more than 3,000 elite companies like Brex, Deal, 11 Labs, and Quora, and check out Metaview. Just head over to metaview.ai/heretics to talk to one of Metaview's product experts or get started for free. You'll be up running and AI enabled in minutes.
So I've used this, and I think it's sick because when you say promptless, I don't think people actually understand what that means.
Yeah.
So can you show us the demo? And if you guys are listening, this is where you should tune into YouTube or the Substack page, because Siadhal's about to give a sweet demo here.
Yeah.
And while you're pulling that up, I love the simplicity of that, Siadhal. I would explain it to someone listen, I wouldn't even say promptless because, again, I've told you guys this. I think there's a bunch of confusion given the semantics we use in this industry, in this world. But it's kind of it's like having an agent on your team that's with you in meetings and is proactive and can take action on behalf of just being a part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, totally. Well, in this case, I'm not going to show you one of the promptless versions anyway. I'm just going to show you the sort of the vibe sourcing-esque example. Can you folks see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So this is what the sourcing product looks like. Very deliberately looks quite similar to if you've used ChatGPT, obviously, which I'm sure everyone has, but also same thing if you've used Lovable, V0, these type of AI coding products. And very simple question, what kind of person are you looking for? So note that this is not be super thoughtful about what filters to apply. It really just encourages you to throw whatever context you have at the AI and let it figure out how to find these people. So in this case, I'm going to give it a I want to find more AEs. So I'm going to give it this prompt. I want to hire more AEs. I love my current team. So there are some resumes attached. So I'd like to find more like them. I've also attached the job description. Feel free to ask me a couple of questions in order to home in on exactly what it is I like about them, so your search is precise. So let me just add these resumes and whatnot real quick.
That's an interesting prompt, Style.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Well, I don't usually ask, like, when it's worth taking a beat, because like I don't usually like end the prompt with like, feel free to ask me questions in order to hone in. Like, I'm curious to see how like the AI responds with that, because that is not part of my current workflow.
Yeah. Well, and also, to be honest with you, it's not required. I think we'll talk about, I'll share the reason I did it in a second. But the reality is, the cool thing about what I did here, as far as the feedback we're getting from customers, is a lot of the time when you understand what you're looking for in a candidate, it's actually quite fuzzy like to be able to articulate it is almost half the problem. So what I'm really doing here is I'm giving it a very like high level, almost emotion. I want more people. I love my current team. Here they are. Like, that's actually where the starting point for many people. And so what I think when you think about what vibe coding is, or what vibe sourcing is, vibe working of any description, you're essentially moving from a world where you used to have to do a lot of the upfront thought in order to get a machine to do something. You have to think very specifically about what you want it to do. That when you're vibe coding, that's no longer the case. You just tell it what you want and let it sort of figure it out from there and make it easy for you. So in this case, I've told it can ask me 3 questions. It's asked me, what's your ideal experience level? So let me answer that for it real quick. The ideal experience level is 2 to 4 years. Closing. The second question is, would you consider someone who crushed at a more established company but hasn't been in the trenches? I'm going to say prefer early stage unless top tier, high growth, scale up. So and the reason this is really cool, hopefully this is obvious, is usually when you're using another sort of like non-AI native, non-agentic sourcing tool, you would have to like pick your bullseye companies. You have to actually like name them, and that's just work. Like I'm going from this thought I have, which is I love early stage or top tier companies. I might have to do 2 separate searches for that. I'm just asking the AI to figure it out for me. And then geo priorities, I'm going to say SF and London only. Cool. So AI has got itself the agent has got itself a little bit more information from me. And what you sort of would typically see with, non-agentic AI solutions here is it would probably just like apply that as a bunch of filters to a database. Now, the great thing about that is that it can be quite quick. The downside to that is often you get huge sort of swathes of candidates, or actually none at all, because no one matches those filters that you've applied. What's actually going to happen here is Metaview is going to come up with a plan for me, or a plan for itself, actually, in order to find candidates that match this. So we're going to give it a few more seconds to come up with its plan. And then I'll show you again this really sort of, frankly, like novel and AI native way that I can work with the AI on this sourcing.
Yeah. One of the things that you taught me that I have had to, it's like a behavior change in the way that I work.
Yeah.
Is that we just need to let AI run while we go do other things.
Yeah.
Right. I think the way that I was used to working was like, okay, I sit down, I'm ready to source. And so like, I'm going to go do all of these things. And by the time that I'm done in my time block, which say it was like an hour and a half, then it's like, okay, great. I want to have 50 profiles, which is typically what I'm trying to do. Yeah. You taught me, Nolan, when you're doing this, you need to just go do something else while the AI works in the background.
Yeah.
That I think is like a big behavior change for people. And I think it's actually a new skill acquisition because, generally humans suck at multitasking. And so what I've started to do is like, as I get into this, I'm writing down yes, this is my core task for what I'd like to do for the next 90 minutes. But while the AI is working, here's like the 2 to 3 minute task that I can go bang out.
Yeah.
Which is it's kind of like it's a big mind shift.
Yeah.
For me, because otherwise you're just sitting here waiting and being unproductive. Yeah.
Well, let me show you. I'll show you another sort of another thing you can do with that time, which is essentially you can get many AI agents working at once. I still think you can focus on the same task. Like, hey, I'm sourcing right now. Okay, I'll spin up an agent for this. I'll spin up an agent for this, spin up an agent for this. These could be different sourcing strategies, maybe. In this case, and I do think a lot of this is a user experience innovation. So what you're seeing now is the AI's first job that's given itself is to create an ideal candidate profile. So what you're seeing here is like a pretty lengthy document, actually, which is essentially the AI turning my rough prompt, which is, just, hey, I love these guys, let's hire more like them, and then give them their resumes, into its synthesis of what is special and unique about these people, so it can work on those instructions instead. And there's a couple of, again, really fun things here. One, you'll see there's a timer ticking down. The idea here is, Nolan, say you did decide, hey, I'm just going to put this prompt in, then I'm going to go away and do something else. It's not going to wait for me forever. It's just give me a couple of minutes just in case it's got something wrong before it goes and does the search. But I can really sort of edit this however I want. In this case, I'm going to say it looks good and we can go for it. Now, while it's doing that, I'm going to show you what I would do in this situation, because I know now it's going to probably take about 3 minutes to find my first batch of candidates here, is I actually have another search strategy in mind. So I don't need to sit here and watch this, right? Because this is not me actively applying the filters. The AI agent is going and manipulating this in the back end. I'm going to go and start a new search. And this time I've got a slightly different thing, which is I have this theory, basically, that, well, that's not a theory, it's obvious. YC is an amazing incubator. Pretty much any founder that goes through YC is going to have their head screwed on. Like the majority is going to have their head screwed on and probably pretty able to hire great AEs. Now, that doesn't change the fact that most YC companies fail, right? So you've got this, you've frequently having great people coming back onto the market. So my other theory here that I want to source based on, which is really almost impossible to do unless you have an agent, is I want to find people that used to be AEs at recent YC-backed companies. You'll be able to spot these companies as they almost always have YC in their batch code in the company name. I give it an example of what that means. Only interested in people that have been at these companies in YC 2022 or later, and so on. So essentially, this sort of, again, almost like a hypothesis I have about what a great candidate might look like, the AI can understand without me having to think, how do I almost break that down into some specific filters on top of a database? So again, I think like very equivalent to vibe coding, where you used to almost have to know how to get the machine to do the thing that you want it to do. And some of those things were really hard. Now, actually, you sort of don't really need to know exactly how to make this happen. You just need to tell the AI and the AI can figure it out.
Metaview's new AI sourcing agent is incredible. If you've been living under a rock and haven't tried it yet, you are officially behind the times. I've been using it for all of my exec searches and it totally kicks ass. If you guys sign up in the next 2 weeks, they'll double your seat count for the next 6 months. Go to metaview.ai/sourcing right now so you don't fall behind. Yeah, the coding analog, by the way, for sourcing were Boolean strings.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, like, for me, literally, I've been doing recruiting for 15 years. And I always looked at Boolean strings and I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, totally.
I never learned it. There was like some like Chrome thing of like help me create a Boolean string sort of a thing that I was using. It always felt like just the worst user experience for anybody doing sourcing.
Totally. And but that's sort of why I'm using this example, because even like a Boolean master would struggle to encapsulate what I just said there, just in natural language, was people who used to be at recent YC companies. Like that's like actually a pretty tough thing to create a Boolean for. Whereas Metaview's come up with its own instructions and it's going to go ahead and do that for me. I'm going to jump back to the other search now. So I'm back in the AEs based on my favorite AEs here. And like, this is actually a really cool example. So, you'll see it started to do a bunch of things. It started to search. It gives you its reasoning trail. So very similar to ChatGPT agent or Claude, whatever you're using, it tells you what it's been working on. This is really useful for a couple of reasons. Again, I'm still orchestrating this, right? This is not like flying blind as a recruiter. This is, I'm seeing what this AI is doing and I'm able to say, well, it looks like you went wrong here. What's really cool is it started to search for London-based AEs and it actually made a mistake. I see that I'm getting many results from London, Ontario, Canada, and also many PR and advertising AEs rather than SaaS B2B AEs. Let me refine my search to get better quality candidates. So I'm not saying that it's admirable that our AI agent made that mistake, because obviously, frankly, it shouldn't. What I am saying is it's admirable that it has, frankly, the intelligence to realize I'm making a mistake. I need to go and do something different. And I think this is a great example of really what the switch over to truly agentic workflows results in. Like you are moving some of your the thoughts can happen by these LLMs that are just getting smarter and smarter all the time. And obviously it's the job of companies like ours to make sure it obviously ends up in the right place. yeah, it's mentioning it's got some strong fits. Let me continue searching for more candidates to build a pool. It's aiming for a pool of 50. And it's going to search more strategically for startups and specific company types. Essentially, what's happening here is the AI agent, the AI sourcing agent, has a bunch of tools that we've built for it under the hood, be that searching across various database of companies, but also candidates. It can also use a browser in the back end as well. And it uses all these different tools in different ways to get me my candidates. And it will land us a few any moment now.
So it feels like what this is starting, while this is working, it feels like what this is starting to enable is anybody to be a world-class sourcer. Like I have a ton of friends who have been just like elite sourcers. It's like their deal, right? Like they go off into like, these coding tools and coding platforms, and they're like looking on the message boards for like who's commenting and like pulling all their shit. Like that for me was like very low energy work. Like I do not like doing that sort of internet sleuthing and research.
Yeah.
Now the agent's doing this.
Yeah.
And so like the enabling feature here is for people like me, people like Kelli, founders, hiring managers. If you want to do your own sourcing now and you want to do it really, really well, you are no longer constrained by having an amazing sourcer. Would you say that's fair and accurate?
Yes, is the answer. The people that we've seen the most immediate love for the product are full cycle recruiters, people who essentially sometimes rely on inbound because they have it, as opposed to thinking, well, I should really grind and do some sourcing now because, they want to focus more on getting to know the candidates and these sorts of things, which is totally understandable. So full cycle recruiters absolutely love it because it's essentially like having your sourcing done for you, but you're still in control, right? It's not just a random batch of it's much easier to calibrate the AI, frankly, than it is a sourcer on your team. You get much quicker feedback loops. And the other folks who really love it actually are founders. We've had a lot of, it's not really the main target market for the product, but founders absolutely love it because they spend, hours and hours per day, as you say, like sleuthing on the internet to find people. I won't interrupt it now because I don't want to, but I can even tell it to, browse the web and find an article of the 50 most hottest up and coming companies and then find candidates from, those companies who have been there for at least 4 years. Whatever I sort of think might be a cool, angle, a vector of attack for finding the candidates that I want. Just like I could ask a human sourcer to go and do those things because it has access to the tools, I can ask the AI agent to do it as well. Yeah. And one thing you'll notice is it's giving me live commentary of what's going on, which is also, which is obviously very cool. I found a good pool of London candidates. Let me get profiles for some of the most promising ones. Let me evaluate the candidates I've collected so far to select the top 50. So it's almost in a way, it's, frankly, on many dimensions better than asking a human to do it because you have this audit, exactly, even if this set of candidates I get now is no good, I'm going to know exactly why it ended. I'm going to be able to interrogate and say, well, why did you land with these people? Now, that's not going to happen. I think they're going to be a pretty strong batch because I've given it a good prompt. But the fact that you can see the whole reasoning trail is great for performance. But also, if you're looking, for example, we've had great comments around, folks that want a more diverse pipeline, for example. You don't know how, if you're sourcing for candidates, you can't really interrogate the human who got these candidates into your pipeline for like why you chose them. You can actually interrogate the AI for exactly that.
This is so cool. I can see why founders, even folks like me, use this. I mean, it's just so easy to do self-service now, right? I mean, you can essentially spread out the recruiting responsibilities. Everyone can recruit with this because it's easy. Yeah. I think the other mindset shift for me that you mentioned earlier, Nolan, with like the way that we work is just how natural this can be. Even 6 months ago in my mind, it was like work with AI and it's kind of robotic. You have to be very precise in what you want. If you don't have the perfect prompts, you're going to get a shitty response. Like just the easy thing you said, hey, go find the top 50 companies. Hey, go find me someone that, if they were part of a great scale up company. It's just so natural. And that's not how
it's more human. Contrary to, it's like actually more human to do it this way.
Yeah.
Just before you get into this next piece, Al, the other thing that comes to me is like, it feels now like the primary constraint in sourcing, like for this use case, is just kind of like your creativity in your prompting. Like, you're saying things about, I'm like taking notes as you're writing because I'm like, shit, like I'm doing sourcing right now. I'm like, YC companies is a really good idea.
Yeah.
I'm looking for like a founding recruiter, like, maybe I should just like start. So I feel like that is now one of the primary constraints is actually like, is our prompting creative enough? Like, can we go different paths with our prompting such that like it will continue to source new profiles for us?
Yeah, totally. So here I've got some results. So basically what happened here is I got my first batch of candidates back. I actually wasn't sure on the quality initially, or not maybe not quality, but how these people got here. So I asked the AI to please share a table for me with how you picked these people. And so it literally creates a CSV for me, and it visualizes it for me as well, where it tells me how it chose these people. And you'll see one of the things here in the columns it's got is, are they an early sales hire? Yes or no? Or do they have HR recruiting tech? Yes or no? Do they have awards and recognition based on their profile? Or have they been promoted fast? Which I didn't specifically tell it to do. It just pulled that from my existing people. That seems to be a common theme.
Wow.
And that's great. So I like that rationale. But actually, to be honest, Metaview we don't really rotate that strong around having previously sold HR tech. So I said to it, actually, you've over-rotated on being an HR tech. So this is like a very common, this is the type of feedback that would probably take you like 3 days to realize that you're miscalibrated with a human sourcer. Like, oh, damn, you've brought all these people that have HR tech, which is great. I'm interested, but like my universe is bigger than that. So I told it, don't rotate on that. Early sales hire and their trajectory are more important. So it went away and did a second pass and found me this, frankly, more appropriate for me batch of candidates. And this is where the AI really starts to become your own, because much as I've given it this prompt, the reality is where the rubber meets the road is me giving feedback on candidates, the calibration process. And so the way we've built this is that every single time I'm presented a candidate, I can say whether I think they're a fit, yes or no. And it all constantly adds that to that ideal candidate profile. So it's constantly tuning its understanding of what good looks like for this role. And over time, we'll start to create almost a company-wide level of understanding of what good looks like, because you're constantly getting this feedback from every recruiter, every hiring manager of like, was this person actually what we were looking for? And you'll start to notice these really cool trends. So this collaboration step is super important for really building an AI agent that frankly understands you, which is where you as an operator get an unfair advantage, right? If you actually have an AI agent that is finding the best candidates that you would otherwise take days and days to find, as opposed to just what seem on the surface, what any random recruiter would find, then that's where you've got a huge advantage.
So how is this possible, like, with LinkedIn? So I remember Rahul Vora's company way back in the day that was like, they were scraping LinkedIn and then I think they got like shut down. How were you able to do this with like the LinkedIn constraints and their terms of service?
There's lots of databases of publicly available candidates. So the same databases that, frankly, a lot of folks will already be using, whether you're using Gem or, Apollo on the sales side. All of these folks, there's data brokers, data platforms that have this data. So this is not a unique data play at all. There's nothing unique about the candidates. You will not find candidates on Metaview that sort of don't exist on these other platforms. What this is about is the apparatus you have to get the LLM to understand what you're looking for so that it can do the navigation and traversing of that database. That's all this is. This is not like there's no database innovation here.
That's super interesting. It's a great way to frame it, right? Because it's like, you're right. Like there's so many of these data providers.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, everyone has access to the data now. It doesn't feel like that's like a unique moat anymore. Now what's really interesting is like, how easy can I find the people that I want as if I was talking to you about it?
Yeah. Although the thing I would maybe add to that, I'm just share my screen again, because I think there's another important point here is, yes, it's definitely true. This data is not like a differentiator, let's say for this approach. It's just about creating an environment that the agent can search against it. What another thing that having an agent does enable you to do is to point it at whatever database you want. So for example, right now, our agent just browses the web to find people, but actually soon you'll be able to also essentially almost give it a presence on your ATS and say, listen, I bet you there's some good candidates in our ATS as well. Please go and search our ATS for these people. And that's like obviously a different data structure, but just as you as a human can understand how the web or LinkedIn looks different to your ATS, an AI agent can as well. So we're going to give it that tool. And same thing with Metaview. You might say, well, actually go and look through all of my conversations and find these people and like further enrich any profiles you find based on what else we know about them. So again, this is when you really start to think about AI essentially representing intelligence on tap. You will like you can really start to reimagine a lot of this work and almost stop this siloing of, well, I need to go here for this thing and here for this thing. Like that's the AI's job. The AI's job is to figure out where to go for what and to learn to navigate that tool and which button to click and all of that shit. That's not your job. Your job is to make sure you're sort of calibrated with the hiring manager and know what great looks like, provide an amazing experience to that candidate when you are frankly like lucky enough to get them to spend time with you. Like that is where the whole game is going to be, not this, hey, I'm really proficient at writing Boolean and therefore searching this. And then I also know how to set up, sequences on this thing. The AI agents are going to do that for you.
Yeah. I love the idea of searching the ATS. Yeah. The ATS is like, they've already indicated interest in your company, right? Right now, the ATS is the place where resumes go to die because nobody looks at them because there's just too many. And it's like, cold outbound becomes the default for every recruiter, which is the hardest way to engage a candidate.
Totally. Yeah.
Sal, what's coming next? Right. So like there's like, you now have two legit products.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about like prioritizing this, like as a user of Metaview? Because like I want to make sure you guys still keep pumping cool shit.
Yeah, I think I guess it's a scaling challenge, or it's like a great opportunity we have to like meet this scaling challenge, which is the bar is also continually rising on the existing products. So there's more we got to do on sourcing for sure. So there's a ton to, whether that's in integration with other databases, like proprietary databases that you own as a customer that you want your agent to be able to navigate, like your ATS, like Metaview, or even another note taker. I think again, this is, you have to like commit to the new paradigm that's emerging. Like, I don't actually care if you don't use Metaview as your note taker. I still want our sourcing agent to be able to check your note taker conversations for candidates that might be great, right? Anyway, so there's a bunch around the integrations and actually getting these candidates in your pipeline. And then the other is around, it's an extension on the ATS, but like a true like first class experience for these application reviews. Is also super exciting to us. So the way we think about it, maybe to answer the sort of the top level question of how do we think about this, is the mix of what are people spending a lot of time doing, especially if that work is undifferentiated, and if someone else did it the next day, it wouldn't be hella different. And what are the things that literally the sort of the bleeding edge of AI makes it now possible to do something different with. Like, there's no point in spending time on things that humans spend a lot of time on that actually AI is a poor sort of it can only poorly imitate. But if there's actually a series of things where truly AI will do it better, like much as that may sting in some cases for some people, that's like clearly where the puck is going. Then that's the stuff that we think is like very mission aligned for us to work on.
Gangster. I love it, man. Can people still just ping you directly on LinkedIn and say, like, give me a free trial? I want to go try this shit right now.
You can check it out. If anyone can check it out, just go to the website and click on metaview.ai and click on try sourcing for free. Yeah, we went through this really cool, we did this experiment, which we're going to continue to do actually, which was, I just put out a post saying, hey, I'm here to do some sourcing, like, just let me know. And obviously I didn't tell them I was going to be using AI agent. In the background was just like showing off almost the capability. And so I had like 12 people ask me to go and find people. I get back to them all in like 5 minutes. It was like pretty magical.
That's sick, man.
That's cool.
Congrats on all the progress, Sal. We'll talk to you soon,
Yeah,
bro.
congrats.
Yeah, thanks.